A long time ago, in a peaceful village nestled at the foot of a mountain range, stood an ancient and dense forest. For generations, the villagers had avoided the woods out of fear, believing it to be haunted by all sorts of frightening creatures. Despite the scary stories, though, some curious souls were drawn to the forest's allure, hoping to uncover its secrets. In this tale, we meet Little T, a bright and inquisitive boy who lives with his parents on the outskirts of town. Unlike most children, Little T was never afraid of the dark, spooky stories, or the unknown, and so he spent his days reading every book in the village library, devouring tales of bravery, magic, and adventure. One day, while exploring the dusty shelves, Little T stumbled upon a worn leather-bound journal that hinted at the existence of a magical world hidden within the forest. According to the journal, the entrance to this mystical realm was concealed behind a waterfall deep in the woods. Filled with excitement, Little T couldn't wait to embark on an adventure and discover the secrets of the magical world for himself. Little T shared his discovery with his three best friends, Miu, the cat, T, the dog, and SP, the bird. Miu was a sleek and agile Siamese cat with piercing blue eyes and a playful spirit. T was a loyal and courageous golden retriever, who always had a wagging tail and a slobbery grin. And SP was a wise and observant Eurasian jay who could mimic human speech almost perfectly. Upon hearing about the magical world, Miu, T, and SP were just as excited as Little T and eagerly agreed to accompany him on his adventure. Before they set off into the forest, Little T and his friends decided to prepare for their journey. They packed their bags with some essential supplies, including a flashlight, some snacks, and a rope, just in case. But when it came time to leave, Little T realized that he had forgotten something very important: a map. Luckily, the journal he had found contained an old map leading to the hidden world. The map was faded and difficult to decipher, but Little T was determined to follow its clues and find the waterfall as quickly as possible. As the group ventured deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller and thicker, forming a dense canopy overhead that blocked out much of the sunlight. The air grew cooler and damper, and strange sounds echoed all around them. Despite the eerie atmosphere, Little T and his friends pressed on, their determination to reach the magical world unwavering. After several hours of walking, Little T noticed a faint sound in the distance, the sound of rushing water. As they followed the sound, the trees began to thin out and the canopy above them grew lighter, revealing a beautiful waterfall cascading down a rocky cliff face. The sight was breathtaking and filled Little T with a sense of awe and anticipation. As the friends approached the waterfall, Little T remembered what the journal had said about the entrance to the magical world being hidden behind it. He and his friends looked carefully for any signs of a hidden doorway, but they couldn't see anything. Just as they were about to give up hope, T, the dog, sniffed the ground near the base of the waterfall and started barking excitedly. Little T and his friends leaned in to listen closely, and they heard it again, a faint scratching sound coming from behind the waterfall. Working together, they managed to move some of the rocks and vines until they saw a small opening behind the waterfall. With a mix of excitement and apprehension, Little T and his friends squeezed through the narrow opening and found themselves in a completely different world. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers, and the sound of birdsong and buzzing insects filled their ears. Before them lay a vast meadow filled with colorful wildflowers and tall, majestic trees. In the distance, Little T could see a quaint village with charming houses and friendly faces. It looked like something straight out of a fairy tale. But as they continued to explore this magical place, they soon realized that it was in trouble. The once vibrant colors seemed dull and lifeless. The cheerful songs of the birds had turned into mournful cries, and the friendly faces in the village were now filled with worry and despair. As Little T and his friends made their way through the village, they learned that the magical kingdom was being drained of its magic, causing all sorts of chaos and destruction. Without their magic, the people of the kingdom were losing hope and didn't know what to do. Little T and his friends wanted to help, but they knew that to restore the kingdom's magic, they needed to find the source of the problem. Following the villagers' directions, Little T and his friends headed to the center of the kingdom, where they hoped to find someone who could help them solve the mystery. Along the way, they met all sorts of strange and wonderful creatures, each more peculiar than the last. There was a grumpy but lovable forest spirit who lived in the oldest tree in the kingdom, a group of mischievous fairies who loved playing tricks on unsuspecting travelers, and a wise old owl, who knew more about the forest than anyone else. Each of these encounters brought Little T and his friends closer together, and they learned that true friendship and courage were just as important as magic in solving problems. As they journeyed to the center of the kingdom, the forest grew darker and more dangerous. They had to cross a raging river filled with sharp rocks and broken tree branches. They had to climb a steep and slippery mountain, and they had to navigate a thick and thorny forest. Through it all, Little T and his friends stuck together, helping each other overcome every obstacle that stood in their way. Finally, after what felt like hours of walking, Little T and his friends arrived at the center of the kingdom, and what they saw before them took their breath away. In the middle of the clearing stood a beautiful unicorn, its horn glowing with a soft white light. The unicorn was surrounded by a group of worried-looking animals, and it was clear that they were in trouble. As Little T and his friends approached the unicorn, they heard its soft, mournful cry. The unicorn explained that its magic was fading, which was causing the entire kingdom to lose its magic. If they couldn't restore the unicorn's magic, then the kingdom would be doomed. Little T and his friends knew that they had to help, but they weren't sure how. The unicorn told them that its magic was being drained by a dark force, and the only way to stop it was to find the source of the darkness and destroy it. With that, Little T and his friends set off to find the source of the darkness, but they soon realized that this would not be an easy task. The forest was vast and dangerous, and they had no idea where to start their search. Just when they were about to give up hope, Sarah the bird noticed something strange in the distance. It was a small, dark cloud that seemed to be hovering over the forest floor. Could this be the source of the darkness? With renewed hope, Little T and his friends flew and ran towards the dark cloud. As they got closer, they could feel the darkness seeping into their bones, making them weak and tired. But they pushed on, knowing that the fate of the kingdom rested on their shoulders. When they finally reached the spot where the dark cloud had been hovering, they were shocked by what they saw. There, in the middle of the forest floor, was a small, unassuming rock. It didn't look like anything special, yet Little T could sense a powerful dark energy emanating from it. As Little T cautiously approached the rock, he could feel his strength draining away and his vision growing dim. But just when he thought he couldn't take it anymore, a small voice inside his head whispered, "Believe in yourself." Gathering all his remaining strength, Little T reached out and touched the rock. Suddenly, the forest shook violently, and the rock began to glow with a bright, menacing light. From the depths of the rock, a dark, shadowy creature emerged, and Little T and his friends knew that this was the source of the darkness. But, despite their fear, Little T and his friends stood their ground. Using everything they had learned on their journey, they faced the creature with courage and determination. T! The dog barked ferociously, scaring the creature and giving Little T time to grab onto the rock. Miu, the cat, leaped gracefully through the air, distracting the creature and giving Little T support. And Sai, the bird, swooped down from above, pecking at the creature and giving Little T the strength he needed to hold on. Together, they fought bravely, knowing that the fate of the kingdom depended on their courage. After what felt like an eternity, Little T and his friends finally managed to defeat the creature. As the creature's dark energy dissipated, the forest began to heal. The flowers bloomed again, the birds sang merrily, and the people of the kingdom rejoiced at the return of their magic. The unicorn dipped its head in gratitude to Little T and his friends, recognizing their bravery and selflessness. And from that day forward, Little T and his friends were known throughout the kingdom as heroes. They returned home forever changed by their experience, carrying with them the memories of their adventure and the knowledge that they had the power to make a difference in the world. And so, dear listeners, the tale of Little T and his friends reminds us that even the smallest and most unlikely of heroes can achieve great things when they believe in themselves and never give up hope. No matter what challenges we face in life, we have the power to overcome them with courage, determination, and the help of our friends.